Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Movie Mumbles, where the Mumbles have movies and the movies have...
You did it wrong. Hey guys, and welcome to Movie Mumbles, where the Mumbles have movies and the movies have mumbles. I'm here with my boy Roy. Say hi, Roy.
You see, I don't care enough, so I don't bother memorizing it, so... You see, I was trying to not, sound like I didn't... I was, goofy, but I didn't have the energy to. So I'm just gonna just talk like this throughout the entire podcast, and yeah. Okay, but seriously, though. Today, we're talking about Oscar movies, and the first movie we watched for that was Mad Max Fury Road, one of the most popular films in recent memory. It was a big smash in 2015. Everyone watched it. Everyone loved it, except for me. Hadn't watched it yet. So I decided to just watch it already. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about it now. So, anything else before we start?
I have seen this film before. I've seen it about 5 times. That's how much I love this. And I've watched it again, and I still love it. That's about all I'm going to say.
I know you've mentioned you liked the movie, or loved it, on the podcast before, so it's going to be interesting when we have a full-on discussion. So, Mad Max. Before we begin, let me just read out the IMDb synopsis for this film, because I think this film has a very interesting synopsis. So, okay, ready? A woman rebels against a tyrannical leader in post-apocalyptic Australia in search for her homeland with the help of a group of female prisoners, a psychotic worshipper, and the drifter named Max. That's Mad Max. So in the IMDb description, Mad Max is one of the last details established in the film. It's not Mad Max as an adventure. It's Furiosa, the main character, female character, is having this whole plot, and then Mad Max is kind of in the background.
Just straight off the bat, this is one of the reasons why so many people really enjoyed this. I mean, I know you haven't seen the films, but anyone who is a Mad Max fan, you've seen Max go through so much in the first 3 films that kind of you want to explore more about the world, and I think that's where George Miller takes this film. He just takes it all in a completely new direction and a new ideal. He focuses it around someone else with Max as a side plot so that you're grounding it in that universe, and then it makes sense that it's not Mel Gibson, and it's like George Miller has explained it as though it's like James Bond. It's passing on the lantern to another actor, but it's still the same Max. It's a continuing story, but it's just a different actor. That's all it is. It's a different portrayal. And this Max in particular, he's a little bit crazy. He's a little bit weird. In the first 2 Mad Max, I'm not going to count Thunderdome, which is the 3rd one, because that one wasn't that good. That was a bit of a misstep. But in the first one, the first Mad Max, and then the second one, I can't remember the actual name of the second.
The Road Warrior. That was one of the first lines.
I knew it had something to do with road.
That was one of the first lines in the sequel. He's the Road Warrior. Blah 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 blah.
That's it. So the first one is where the apocalypse starts. So the apocalypse starts up in that first film, or it's establishing in the first film. It isn't modern 80s when it was set. It's kind of like Australia's gone to war, and they've not really got very much economy, but they've still got big built-up cities. They've got policemen. Max was actually a policeman. He was a cop. And they've still got a laws, and they've still got rules, and they've still got a society.
So is the waste is still a kind of post-apocalyptic, but it still had some order back then, or
yes,
was it?
Yeah. It still has a lot of the order and the rule. And Max has a family, and in that, and I'm gonna spoil it because you've seen Mad Max Fury Road. You kind of know that he doesn't have a family in this, so it's kind of obvious that his family dies. And for the first film, it is like a revenge film for Max. The second film, The Road Warrior, that's more of an action, high-octane, just going at it, driving on the road, kind of killing bad guys film. The third one, that's a bit weird. That's about a civilization called the Thunderdome, where Tina Turner is the mayoress, and
okay, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to.
It's a bit weird, but this one doesn't have the focus on Max, and this is kind of the first time in the sequence where you don't have that focus. And really, Tom Hardy, he has a very small amount of lines that he says, but when he does say them, he says them. He portrays them so well, and really it's more in like looks and things that Tom Hardy's been doing. But yeah, the main focus is in Charlize Theron, which does an amazing performance and is the hero of this story.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so yeah, first I gotta give praises. Let's start with the performances. I think every single person that performed in this was incredible. Special mentions go to the main characters. Tom Hardy, an excellent Mad Max. I'm not too familiar with the franchise, but I did understand his character in this film because of his performance. It's such a great performance. It's kind of funny, actually, because I remember Tom Hardy. I was introduced to Tom Hardy because of Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. And he's fighting a character that's actually kind of like Bane. He can't breathe.
Yes, he is actually. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, he has a breathing apparatus, and like he can't like it's like weird. Like it's he actually looks like Bane, and he has this dark. I mean, obviously they both look like Darth Vader, but still, like it's kind of funny. And of course, Charlize Theron. What do we need to say? Furiosa is like one of the most kick-ass modern action heroes in recent memory. Like she is amazing. Like she's badass. Amazing performance, and she also has an emotional side. Like she also isn't just like a tough female character, but she's actually like a real character. Like also, but before we continue, I want to give special mention to Nicholas Hoult, who plays the war boy, who ends up kind of redeeming himself, like kind of going through a change. He used to be one of the war boys for this big evil Bane character, and then he ends up going along with Max's like crew and changing. And I thought Nicholas Hoult did a great job in the performance. Like he just changed from being such a like worshiper, like crazy worshiper, to like a sensible being who's willing to help like these people in a way. And it actually is a great kind of redemption story mixed within all this crazy octane action.
Definitely, and especially like with Nicholas Holt's performance, like he's came from being a child actor in About a Boy, this idiotic, annoying little child, and he has grown so well as an actor. It's amazing, and like it's like he's got some really good films underneath his belt now as well. Like he plays Beast in the X-Men, and he does a good job in that role as well. And he's got a few other films and stuff and franchises underneath his belt, and this just proves how different his characters can be and how wide branching he can go as an actor. And yeah, hats off to Nicholas Hoult. And Tom Hardy, you mentioned that you know him as Bane. Do you know where I know Tom Hardy from?
Inception?
Nope.
Okay, I don't know.
No, I'll give you one more guess.
I honestly don't know Tom Hardy. If not,
Star Trek Nemesis, he played Shinzon. The main bad guy in probably the worst Star Trek film.
Yeah, I would never guess that.
Yeah, no, he did. He played the main bad guy in that, and he actually like this was in 2002.
Oh, was he that guy that was like the? Was he like the Picard clone? Like that
yes.
weird. Oh,
yeah, that's who Tom Hardy is. Tom Hardy is a Picard clone, but this was like fairly right on in his career before he did Bronson, which was like his big break.
Yeah,
and he didn't exactly do it very well. Like there is one line in this whole thing, and he says it exactly as Shinzon, and it sounds the exact same, and it was very eerie for me, and I only noticed it this time watching it, because I was just like, oh shit.
What was the line? Oh, by the way, this is a spoiler for you.
It was the tree, because he never really... Oh, we never said spoilers, did we?
No.
It's going to be spoilers ahead, boys and girls.
I mean, I put it in every description, like it's like the first thing you see. But still, yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. We should still get into the habit of doing it in the intro, though.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't say anything
spoilers ahead from here, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch the film. I really advise you to watch this film. But who hasn't seen Mad Max Fury Road? It's a huge film. For anyone who loves movies, it's a massive film. Like, it's so high octane, literally. But anyway...
So the tree line? The tree line?
Yeah. It was when he said... the tree or whatever. I can't actually remember his exact line, but it just sounded so much like Shinzon. I was just like, oh no, ruined this film forever. No, it hasn't really.
Okay, so let me just, before we continue, I just want to talk a bit about Mad Max before release, like Mad Max Fury Road before it's released. Like, my first time hearing about the news of, like, a Mad Max sequel, because, of course, we've been through all these like reboots and sequels and long-awaited sequels to like franchises, including this year was one of the biggest like, Star Wars. Star Wars: The Force Awakens was also a super big like franchise that kind of returned to like, it was also kind of 80s, 70s ish franchise, but. I like when I first heard about it. One, I was not familiar with Mad Max as a franchise, and two, I had no reason to really be too excited about it. I knew like people were kind of getting hyped about it because George Miller's returning, and also the trailers looked awesome. But even then, I was still kind of like, we've seen so many bad sequels and reboots and all that such, so. I was kind of surprised that not only does this do well, but this went incredibly well. This was definitely one of the biggest films of 2015, and this is like a modern action movie classic. And watching it, I can say it is just like my heart, like it just reaches a different like rhythm. It like beats like twice as fast when you watch the film.
There's so many good things about this film, and there's so many different layers that I can try and break down in 25 minutes. But the thing that I like to keep into perspective, George Miller, when he was making this, was 77 years old. Oh yeah, he's a grandfather. He has made probably the footnote, one of the footnotes in action films. Like you've got The Dark Knight, that's like kind of like way up there. You've got before that, you've got other great films like The Matrix, that sort of thing, like just giants. Empire Strikes Back, and you've got Mad Max Fury Road, and that holds its weight against these giants, and then shows people how to do it. And at a time where me personally, I'm getting very tired in like action films and very tired with the same old, stupid stunts that don't look real, that don't feel genuine. And then this comes out, and you're just holding your breath the whole way through. You've got that guitar going all the way through. And on the note of the guitar, one of my favourite moments is when that actually becomes part of the action in the final scene. It's actually involved. I thought it was just a gimmick when I first saw it, and then he actually gets involved, and he's like, ding, 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 ding.
That's like the battle where he fights with the, like, Mad Max gets on like the guitar guy, and then he fights with that giant like flamethrower guitar. It's like, oh my god, that's my favorite. Like, that guitar guy, that's crazy, blind, stupid guitar guy. Like, best part of the movie, best part of the entire movie.
definitely, and a lot of people will say that as well. But I mean, there's so much about this. Like, let's go to Furiosa, because it is her story. It's such a sad story if you think about it. Like, everything is so sad. But she's very tough, and she knows how to handle herself. So she makes this very risky and ballsy decision to help these young women get out of a trap and free them, and she wants to free herself as well. She wants to go to the Greenland. She wants to go to the land of many mothers. And then it's that constant escape, and it's constantly going. And then when she finally gets there, and she realizes that running away from where she was, like, it's the moment where she's kneeling down and she's screaming, and you can't actually hear her scream, and then the music builds, and then the sand, and again, another Star Wars thing kind of reminded me of a lot of Star Wars films, because that's always got sand, but actually filmed in a similar location to the first film on Tatooine, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a similar area of Australia.
I also love that scene too, because, like, of course, the previous scene, it had this like blue tinted like background, and like the for some reason the dirt is all like soggy, and like the tires get stuck. At first it's like, oh, okay, so this is like a hurdle. Then we find out that was the Greenland with all the soil and stuff, and that explains why all the soil is much harder, gets like mushy and stuff. So now that wasn't just a cool like scene, it was actually foreshadowing to the reveal that this big Greenland that Furiosa was hoping for is no more. And that's what ruins, like, this destroys her at first. But then she comes back and becomes a badass. And I love her arc. I love the War Boys arc. And I love Max also has a kind of arc, you know? Because in the beginning, he's having all these, like, traumatic events about... Which I assume it's the daughter, like... Because you mentioned, like, his daughter's death.
It's not. It's not. He never had a daughter.
Who the fuck is the girl? Who the fuck is the girl?
You don't know. You never actually find out who that is. That is something that's happened.
I thought it was like something in the... I thought it was like something from the previous films.
Between Thunderdome and Fury Road.
Was any of the characters that showed up?
There's a whole story there that's never been told. Somehow he hits some sort of family, or
maybe. Yeah, I heard her mention father, so I assumed like that was
I thought that as well. No, she says Papa. But I mean, that could just be a nickname. He was called Papa before in the past, and that was just a nickname. It's not actual father.
Oh, okay. So either or, it's ambiguous, I guess. So yeah, but still, okay. So at the beginning, he's had this traumatic experiences, and of course, in the beginning, he's a complete asshole to the women and like Furiosa. He's just like he was about to like leave them there if it wasn't for the car running out of gas, and then by the end, like. It's a clever detail. Like he's willing to like give up his blood to save Furiosa at the very end. It's a clever detail because originally he was giving the blood to Nicholas, like being forced to, but now he's doing it willingly. So it's like it's a clever detail. There's so many clever details in it. The film has such a fast pace that there are so many details that you kind of just miss, but they're very well set up and they have some very awesome payoffs. Like everything. Like there's too much stuff to list. Like this is such a rewatchable movie. And
it is. Definitely.
It's so clever.
Like I said, I've watched it about 5 times in 2 years, so that's something in itself. Because I very rarely will rewatch films. I like to watch them once and then get it out my system, and then I move on to the next. But this one, I've watched it about 5 times, and I could watch it again. I could literally sit down and watch it again after we finish recording. I could go and do that. Like I would happily do that.
Also, I love this, like the filmmaking of it. George Miller, like as you said, he's really old at this point, but he is still such a great director. Like he's done the previous Mad Max movie, so he definitely has a history and a passion for this franchise.
Do you know what other film he did?
Shut up! Just you're gonna say something stupid.
Pig in the City.
Shut the fuck up. Okay.
Right. Okay. So yeah, no, I want to pick up on that as well because the cinematography in particular, especially
it's so amazing. There's so many just bright colors and
they filmed on the Area Alexia, which is, or the Alexia area, or whatever. I think the area, which is the exact same thing that most of the Marvel films have been filmed on recently. It is a digital camera, so it doesn't pick up color as well. And look at the actual color that is there. It's so well done and so well picked out. And
it's so vibrant. It's so
exactly. And it's kind of at a time where digital cameras don't get. You've got to edit digital cameras to get the vibrant and the colors out because everything that you film in digital is very grey. So you've got to bring out those colors. Whereas if you film on film, that captures the light really well and you don't really have to edit that to bring out the light. But it looks like it's filmed on actual film, and it's not. It's filmed on a digital camera. It's actually filmed on a digital camera that I've got to work with in the past, and I'm like, yeah. I've worked, it's probably one of the best cameras around at the time, and I'll tell you about that after, actually. But
Womble was in the industry. Did you know that? Oh,
well, it was very recently when I got to work with the Alexia Area.
Oh, that's cool.
Alexia. Yeah.
Speaking of filming on set and digital stuff, all the action scenes are practically made. There's not.
Yes.
It's surprising too because so much.
There are a few CGI moments, but all the actual effects are practical made. So there is CGI in it, and you do notice it if you're looking out for it.
Yeah, there's some of it, but still.
It's how you're supposed to do CGI. You just add. You don't create things. You just give it a little bit more flavor, and that's what CGI. That's how CGI should be used. It should be used to blend in actual genuine filmmaking. So, for instance, like when the guitar comes out after the big crash at the end, the big explosion with the guitar truck. And the guitar, and the wheel comes at you, that's CGI, that moment.
Obviously,
the actual explosion in the background, that's genuine, real explosion. And I think Mad Max Fury Road holds the record, and they took it off Casino Royale for the amount of cars destroyed
on set. It's so amazing.
You can see why. And it's one of my problems with the Fast and Furious franchise. They don't do practical effects. Most of their stunts are CGI, and you can tell. And there's not that risk. There's not that you know they're gonna come out of it. It's boring, but this just throws everything into the action and the pump, and
And it's never like there. It's very thrilling throughout, but it's never cluttered. Like it's never like gets too disorienting. Like as a common problem with action films, it's super shaky, it's super unfocused, it's hard to know what the fuck is happening. But
that's another thing with the cinematography. They never once use shaky cam. It's all steady cam, and you watch the action. It's all for a purpose. The only times when it's handheld is usually when it's inside
the
I've
truck
with Furiosa, and she's like in trouble, or she's trying to drive away, and it's moving from like one thing to the next, but then it's still controlled and you're still focusing on the exact things that the director George Miller wants you to see, as opposed to shaky cam to get rid of like bad fighting. And don't get me started on shaky cam again, please.
Okay, so here's something. When I was like in the first couple of minutes of the film, I noticed something that I really like about the film. Is that for most of the film, I feel like if you were to watch it without, like, if you muted the movie, you could still kind of have an understanding of what the plot is, which is yes, because like there's so much of the story is told through visuals instead of dialogue. There's not a lot.
Why would you mute the movie? Because there's also so much of the storytelling that's being told through the music. Like if you just listen to the soundtrack, you can tell where you are in the film. If you listen to just the sound, then you can tell what's happening. You can feel the intensity. So it's not just like the visuals as well. It's all over the board. It's all down to storytelling. And then when you put them all together, you get something amazing, because so much time and effort has gone into every single area of this film, and it shows. And it feels like a passion project. It feels like the people who are making this really, really wanted to make this. And it shows.
A great example of like music, like as you said, great music moment was, I forgot which specific scene. I think it was like after like they meet the lady allies, and there's a truck that's coming, and you're not sure at first, but there's a musical cue that kind of sounds hopeful. So like using that musical cue, you can kind of discern that truck that's coming towards them is not like an enemy truck full of bad guys, but actually like a helpful thing for the allies, which is a clever detail. You remember that scene?
Yes, yeah, I do, yeah. And again, like, all the way through, that soundtrack, it just influences and changes the movie so well. It's probably one of my favourite soundtracks. In fact, it's something that I could probably listen to separately from the film. And there's very few movie soundtracks that I could do that with. I could probably do it with Star Wars. I could probably do it with some other things here, there. Maybe The Dark Knight, if you push me, I might be able to do it with that. But then, even so, you kind of need the visuals with that. But this is just so great, and there's a score for every single moment. That's what it feels like. So, like, when they're being chased, it's the dang, 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 and then the guitar kicks in, and it's.
And it makes sense too, because they have a guitar guy on the track.
And then you've got the drums, and you see them playing the drums as well.
Yeah,
and it's not just like there's a music going on. It feels like there's actual genuine music in the actual real world. So it's not even like a movie score. It feels like it's a tribal hunt music, and that's exactly what it is. And for that, it stands out. It's one of the best soundtracks, I would say, especially from recent memory, because a lot of the soundtracks these days that are coming out, they feel very reused and recycled. Sound like other films. They're very, very similar to other films, and like it's this whole thing with temp music, how a director will see the film before the composer comes in, and they put temporary music from another film in that, just so the director can see what it looks like with the film. And then when he goes to the composer, he says, yeah, no, I want something very similar to that music. So then the director's getting used to this temp music. And this is obviously completely the opposite, because you feel that the composer has worked with George Miller all the way through this, like all the way through the process. And same with the editing as well. Like the editor has worked with the director all the way through. And like the costume design, they've worked with the director all the way through. And not one of them has done it alone. And that makes a really great film. And like I said, it feels like a passion project where everyone involved has wanted to do it.
Okay, so before we end this off, I just want to quickly say, We usually don't talk about these types of things on this podcast, but I do want to discuss it's just for a little bit gender politics. So this film is full. It's very much kind of a woman's film. Not. I mean, here's let me. It's a film kind of about empowering women in a way, because the main plot is about essentially getting these women out of an oppressed state, because they were essentially like breeders. I'm not sure, like specifically. I think they were trading for like resources or whatever. Like I think they traded the women for resources. I think that was it. But
no, well, those women were breeders. So
yeah, they were his wives.
Are the big bad guys. Stock to produce healthy physical males. That's what Immortan Joe wanted.
They are specifically like objects. They even discuss like that's property.
Yeah, they are objects. They are owned. They are things, and the whole thing is about them saying we are not things.
And I think it's very well done. Like the characters are characters. They I don't think they're very stuck. Everyone kind of breathes life, especially Furiosa. Like Furiosa is just like very impressive. Like Charlize Theron kicked it out of the park with this performance, and it's great to see because like sometimes modern films kind of suffer from like having stock characters, especially stock female characters. They're either love interest or like a Megan Fox character, for instance. Very like sexualized, but this is very refreshing in a way, and I do. It is appreciated,
well,
I think.
It's came out in a year where a lot of female characters were in big blockbuster films. Like, you've got Rey in Star Wars, although I do think she's a bit more of a Mary Sue, whereas Furiosa isn't, because she gets hurt, and at the end of the day, like, she solves the problem, she kills the guy, and then she's about to die, and she generally has her life on the line, and Mad Max is the one that does ultimately save her, but he's not the hero. It's Furiosa. Furiosa is Luke Skywalker. After Luke Skywalker has had his arm chopped off from Darth Vader, the only difference is Furiosa beat Darth Vader.
Yeah, the audio just cut off, so I had no idea what you actually said.
Oh, okay. Well, you can hear it back in the recording when you're editing.
Whatever you said, I completely agree, unless I don't. We started off with a banger. It's gonna be hard to kind of top this, so I'm interested to see what you have in store.
Before you gave me your pick, I was gonna pick The Imitation Game. The Imitation Game was only a year before this, and we have had quite a lot of
recent films.
Yeah, very recent films, like Zootopia, that was this year, and we had Inside Out, that was a couple of years ago, and Mad Max a couple of years ago, and so they're all very, very similar films that are very close to each other. So then I was like, well, maybe I should pick something from the 70s, maybe I should pick something from the 80s. And I kept thinking, I had to look through all the stuff, and I kept thinking, and then I saw a film, and I was like, I've got that on DVD, but I've never watched it. It's not exactly that long ago, though. I'm gonna pick the one film that I haven't seen by Martin Scorsese. And that is The Departed.
Oh!
Yeah. I've never actually seen that, and I know that that's a little bit controversial, because a lot of people said that that's more for his body of work rather than the actual film.
Because he's been nominated for a bunch of Martin's films.
So I decided to pick that. I like Matt Damon. I love Leonardo DiCaprio.
I haven't seen that film.
I've actually seen the original, and I love that film. So I'm kind of seeing.
That's going to be interesting.
Is this better or worse?
It's a remake.
Yeah. It's the remake.
Yeah, a remake of I think a Hong Kong film, and not Chinese film.
Yeah, I've seen the original. I've seen the original Departed.
Okay, so it's gonna be interesting. I haven't seen The Departed. I haven't seen that many Martin Scorsese films, but I have, of the ones I've seen, I love his work. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. To be
honest, there's probably more than that one that I haven't seen, but that was the one from like the Oscar nominations that I haven't seen, I think.
Okay.
Oh, Raging Bull, I haven't seen that, but that's a different. Was that ever nominated?
That was nominated.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, okay. But, so I could have chosen that. But no, I'm sticking with The Departed. I think we should get an Oscar winner in there as well, in our picks.
Yeah, you got a point. So, now's your chance to check out The Departed before or after we talk about it, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, if you care about spoilers, it doesn't. I don't know. But yeah, and that has been this Movie Mumbles podcast. Anything you want to say before we close it off, Womble dude?
I've been drinking single malt whiskey throughout the recording of that.
Okay. Adios, muchachos.
Bye bye, babies.
Wait, what? 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 Okay, this is ending.